From the edge of a silent starfield, the council chamber pulsed with the dim glow of tactical holomaps. Dozens of alien silhouettes leaned toward the shifting blue sphere in the center. It was small by galactic standards, an unassuming world balanced in the black. Its orbital paths were clean. No automated defense lattice. No deep space listening arrays. No warfleet parked in standby orbit. It spun unguarded, a lone jewel in the void. Reports from reconnaissance drones scrolled across the holographic surface. Primitive atmospheric craft, limited orbital capability, communications carried through open radio bands. The gathered delegates spoke in measured, careful tones, but the message beneath their words was obvious. The world was defenseless. In the culture of the assembled species, an undefended planet was an opportunity, a prize to be claimed, stripped, or occupied. The absence of shields and patrol fleets was not just rare, it was unthinkable. A voice from the back, sharp, calculating, requested the status of orbital weapons platforms. Negative. Another asked about hidden relay stations or cloaked missile nests. Negative again. The consensus formed quickly. The inhabitants were pre-industrial by galactic war standards. Their technology level hovered somewhere between nuisance and irrelevance. They could not defend themselves against even a single modern warship. And yet, that single, unspoken clause cut through the growing certainty. And yet the world remained untouched. The archivist species, whose histories stretched back millions of cycles, confirmed the planet had stood unmolested through the rise and fall of hundreds of stellar empires. In the surrounding sectors, colonies had been conquered, resources stripped, populations displaced. But this one sphere, catalogued in the archives as Sol 3, remained intact. Unclaimed. The presiding coordinator gestured to a series of archival entries projected above the chamber. Long-range scans taken over centuries showed no change in defensive posture. No sudden technological leaps. No alliances with greater powers. Just a quiet, isolated biosphere, oblivious to the predators beyond its sky. The footage was almost mocking in its simplicity. Water vapor drifting across continents, scattered lights visible on the night side, auroras painting its magnetic poles. A strategist from the Krith Dominion voiced what several were already thinking. If this world had no allies, no fleet, no hidden deterrent, then the reason for its safety must be political. Perhaps it was under the shadow of a greater empire. Perhaps it had been marked as neutral territory in a forgotten treaty. The archivist rejected the notion immediately. No record existed of any formal protection, no alliance sigils appeared in any known database. The chamber grew restless. Predators among them had already begun to calculate the extraction yields, oxygen, metals, biomass. Others spoke of subjugation campaigns, population management, genetic harvesting. For most in the room, morality was irrelevant, advantage was the only measure that mattered. But the more cautious members were silent, observing. They had seen opportunity turn to ruin before. A murmur rose as one of the Valen delegates, a species known for methodical patience, requested the log of reconnaissance attempts. The holographic table filled with dozens of faint red icons, each representing an incursion by a foreign craft. The timeline stretched back centuries. Every incursion ended in failure. No survivors. No recovered craft. No confirmed hostile engagement, just silence after crossing into the planet's atmosphere. The details were vague, often corrupted, as if entire segments of recorded data had been deliberately erased. The presiding coordinator paused, mandibles flexing in thought. The Chris strategists leaned forward. Coincidence, they said. Natural hazards. Atmospheric instability. Primitive or not, weather can destroy fragile craft. But their tone lacked conviction. Everyone in the chamber had seen worse worlds, storms of acid, lightning arcs across continents, gravity wells that crushed ships, and still they could be conquered. A final report flickered into view. The most recent probe had entered low orbit 6 planetary cycles ago. Telemetry showed a normal descent until it crossed the terminator line into darkness. Sensors spiked. A burst of static. Then nothing. No wreckage. No trace. as if it had been swallowed. Silence held the chamber. Not the polite kind, but the wary kind. The kind that settles when every predator in the room senses a pattern but cannot yet name it. The presiding coordinator broke it. The decision came in a single clipped sentence. A test would be conducted. A strike group would approach, armed but limited in scale, enough to gauge response, not enough to risk irreplaceable assets. The result would decide whether Sol 3 was truly defenseless, or whether some unseen force had kept it beyond the reach of the galaxy. The chamber's lights dimmed as the order was logged. Across the void, engines ignited, cutting bright scars through the dark. The blue world spun on, its surface unaware of the attention fixed upon it, its seas and skies waiting for visitors who believed themselves the hunters. The strike group crossed the void with calculated precision, its formation tight, its hulls painted in the muted alloys of war. They entered orbit without resistance. Scanners swept the surface, mountains, plains, oceans. No shield grids. No launch signatures. The tactical readouts were clear, and yet there was a quiet unease threading through the comm channels, unspoken but palpable. Descent protocols began. Atmospheric entry was smooth at first, plasma sheathing the drop craft in predictable bursts. Then, without warning, navigation systems began reporting contradictory coordinates. Altitude readings shifted erratically, one moment high above the surface, the next submerged miles below sea level. Pilots recalibrated, but the errors multiplied. Artificial horizons spun without logic. The shipboard AI insisted all systems were nominal, even as visual displays dissolved into static. Within the first minute of entry, comms fractured. Signals between vessels warped into echoes, messages looping back garbled and nonsensical. Voices overlapped in strange harmonics, as though multiple versions of the same words were being spoken with microscopic delays. Data streams attempted to compensate, only to fill with null characters, then lines of symbols no one recognized. Through the distortion, the crews caught glimpses, rapid flashes on external feeds. Something moved in the clouds, too fast to resolve, shapes that bent around sensor focus points. The signatures registered for only a fraction of a second before vanishing, leaving behind ghost images that smeared across visual frames. No weapons fire. No mechanical outline. Just the sensation of being tracked, layer by layer. Landing zones were chosen in remote terrain to avoid contact with the local population. As skids touched soil, the silence became oppressive. Atmospheric readings matched long-range scans, breathable for humans, inert for the alien physiology inside their suits. Yet there was an odd resonance, a low-frequency vibration felt rather than heard, one that set teeth on edge and made internal comms thrum faintly. Instruments reported nothing unusual, but every soldier felt it. Teams deployed in standard reconnaissance formations, equipment active, weapons ready. Almost immediately, the environment reacted. Winds shifted abruptly, circling the landing zone. Clouds massed above with unnatural speed. Static charge built in the air, prickling along exposed skin. Trees shivered in unison despite the absence of consistent wind direction. Small animals froze mid-motion, eyes reflecting faint glints even in darkness. Within minutes, one team failed to report. Their locator beacons flickered, then extinguished as if power had been cut. Search drones were dispatched, but the live feed cut out after a few seconds of grainy, color-drained footage. Attempts to triangulate their last known position returned coordinates that shifted every time they were checked, as if the landscape itself was rearranging in subtle increments. The commander ordered immediate consolidation of forces, but even regrouping became a challenge. Compasses spun erratically. Positioning satellites overhead no longer responded to authentication pings. The world beyond 100 meters began to distort. The angles of hills seemed wrong, shadows stretched against the direction of the light. Soldiers who tried to describe what they were seeing found the words slipping away, replaced by confusion or sudden muteness. Then came the sound. It began as a distant hum, low enough to pass for machinery far away. But it grew, layering upon itself, until it resonated through armor plating and bone. No source could be identified. The pitch shifted at irregular intervals, forcing inner ears to ache, balance to falter. Some collapsed, disoriented. As quickly as it began, it stopped. The wind ceased. The vibration vanished. The terrain appeared normal again. Except 2 more squads were missing. Their channels were silent. Their biosigns had flatlined without alarm or struggle. The remaining troops moved with mechanical precision toward extraction coordinates, discipline overriding panic. Reboarding was unopposed, but ascent was not clean. As the crafts broke atmosphere, their external hull temperatures plummeted inexplicably, frost forming even under re-entry heat. One vessel reported mass fluctuations, its weight doubling and halving within seconds, before stabilizing the instant they cleared the upper cloud layers. Once in orbit, the true damage became evident. Entire data banks from the mission were gone, not corrupted, not encrypted, simply absent, as if they had never existed. Physical records, too, tactical pads and storage units, were blank, their memory cores wiped clean. The only remnants were fragments of audio, distorted breathing, metallic scraping, and a single unidentifiable voice speaking in an unfamiliar cadence. The commander relayed the bare minimum to the council. Landing achieved, no hostile contact identified, but severe losses sustained. No mention was made of the strange interference, the vanishing squads, or the voice. The truth was already clear to the survivors. Whatever protected the planet did not announce itself with fleets or firepower. It simply erased intruders from existence. The council chamber was tense when the surviving commander returned. His official report was brief, stripped of detail, but the casualties alone stirred unrest. Voices clashed in overlapping arguments. Some demanded immediate escalation, others insisted on a moratorium until the anomaly was understood. The archivist faction called for a deeper examination of historical records, warning that the incident matched patterns too consistent to dismiss. Their request unlocked sealed files spanning thousands of cycles. Grainy star charts and fragmented expedition logs filled the central display. The entries began with the earliest encounters, merchant craft that strayed into the Sol system and never reappeared. At first, they were written off as navigational failures or pirate raids. But the frequency increased, and the ships lost came from too many different sectors to be coincidence. The timestamps showed attempts separated by centuries, yet each ended with silence. More recent files were clearer. Several empires had dispatched military forces to seize the resource-rich planet. Recon squadrons, planetary assault carriers, even capital ships, none returned. The only evidence came from partial transmissions, recovered through debris drifting in neighboring systems. In one, a captain's voice dissolved into a distorted scream, followed by static and then an abrupt end. In another, a crewman shouted about movement inside the hull, before the signal cut entirely. One entry contained only a single phrase, repeated twice, asterisk. It sees us. Asterisk. The most troubling data came from expeditions that managed to transmit telemetry up to the final moments. Energy readings would spike without identifiable source. Hull stress warnings would activate despite no impact or external pressure. In every case, instruments failed in cascading patterns, navigation, targeting, life support, all collapsing within seconds, as though dismantled by an unseen intelligence. Ancient civilizations had left their own interpretations. The Valen archives described Sol 3 as part of the Silent Perimeter, a cluster of worlds left untouched by mutual agreement among early stellar powers. But there was no treaty text, only warnings etched into memory cores. Approach invites removal. The Scaran war clans recorded it differently, framing it as a cursed hunting ground where warriors entered with honor and vanished without trace, their names unspoken thereafter. To them, erasure was worse than defeat. A pattern emerged from the layered accounts. The planet's apparent vulnerability was static. It had not progressed technologically in ways that would explain deterrence. The threat did not come from fleets, planetary shields, or allied intervention. Whatever operated there acted selectively, striking only those who crossed the threshold, leaving others, civilian explorers who kept their distance, unharmed. The phenomenon was targeted, precise, and total in its execution. Theories formed rapidly. Some proposed the existence of a cloaked orbital network capable of instant disintegration. Others suggested a sentient planetary biosphere that recognized and neutralized intruders. A minority whispered about relics from pre-recorded history, technologies so advanced that to modern eyes they might as well be omnipotent. None of these could be confirmed. Every attempt to probe further was erased alongside the mission itself. An archivist brought forth the oldest surviving artifact related to Sol 3, a damaged data crystal, origin unknown, retrieved from a derelict deep in uninhabited space. Its contents were almost entirely degraded, but one segment remained intact. It showed a map of the solar system, with a single line of text in a language no one could translate until the AI linguistics core attempted pattern analysis. The result was rough, but the meaning was plain: Guardians remain. The phrase carried weight in the room. In galactic history, Guardians referred only to constructs or entities created to protect something of exceptional value. No living witness in the Council had ever encountered an active one. Most were thought destroyed, their makers long extinct. The idea that an entire world might still be under such protection shifted the tone from opportunistic ambition to wary calculation. Even so, dissent lingered. The Chris strategists argued that myths grew from misunderstandings, that the evidence was circumstantial, and that the most recent mission had faced environmental complications, nothing more. Others countered that too many empires had been erased for the pattern to be coincidence. The record showed no survivors from a direct approach, no exceptions, no defeats, only absence. The coordinator ordered a new mission, not of conquest but of covert study. A science vessel, stripped of overt weaponry, would enter the system under deep camouflage. It would not descend, would not transmit openly, and would attempt only passive observation from the edge of detection range. This, they reasoned, would determine if the planet's unseen defenders responded only to clear aggression. Approval was reluctant, but unanimous. The risk was calculated, the resources minimal. Yet beneath the formalities, a shared unease crept into every mind present. They were no longer considering a vulnerable target. They were studying a mystery older than their own civilizations, one that had consumed every challenger without a sound. The science vessel entered the system on a trajectory designed to mimic the drift of interstellar debris. Its hull emitted no active signals, its heat signature reduced to the threshold of background radiation. For the first several planetary orbits, nothing occurred. Instruments gathered readings of the outer worlds, asteroid belts, and the faint traces of ancient mining operations long abandoned. The crew's tension eased, though no one voiced it aloud. It was beyond the orbit of Neptune that the first anomaly appeared. Gravitational scans detected masses far larger than any known body in the region, arranged in an exact pattern, 12 in total, each positioned with geometric precision along an arc beyond Pluto's path. Optical imaging returned only darkness where they should have been visible. No light reflected from their surfaces, no radiation leaked from their structures. The readings were so consistent and deliberate that chance was dismissed immediately. The vessel altered course to pass closer to one of the anomalies. Proximity sensors registered an edge, then a depth, then an internal composition unlike any recorded alloy. Energy levels inside the structure were faint yet constant, as though something dormant still maintained baseline operations. The crew initiated a cautious scan at minimal output. Before the data stream could be fully processed, the ship's primary systems froze. Not failed, simply halted, every process suspended mid-cycle without triggering alerts. In the silence that followed, a voice entered their calms uninvited. It was not broadcast in any recognizable language, but the meaning appeared instantly in each mind as if directly implanted. The tone was neither hostile nor welcoming, merely absolute. "You will not advance." The words were followed by an unbroken sequence of images: a solar system in flames, fleets obliterated in seconds, worlds fractured into dust. The images were not chaotic battle scenes, they were executions, precise and efficient. Attempting to respond triggered no reaction. The ship's engines remained inactive, held by forces outside known physics. Navigation displays now rendered the solar system in 3 dimensions, but with additions: lines connecting the 12 structures in a web that encompassed every planetary orbit. In this rendering, the Earth itself was the center point, the nexus to which all vectors converged. A second transmission followed, this time layered with what felt like memory rather than communication. It revealed humanity not as they were now, but as they had been, builders of vast cities spanning star systems, architects of weapons and constructs beyond contemporary comprehension. The 12 structures were their work, remnants of an age when they ruled without challenge. At the height of their power, they had withdrawn, dismantling their own empire and returning their homeworld to a simpler state. The reasons were not explained, but the decision had been deliberate. The constructs were left behind, bound to a singular directive: protect Earth and its people against all external threat, without question or hesitation, for as long as they endured. The images faded, replaced by the sensation of an immense, patient awareness, as though the constructs themselves regarded the intruders directly. One final statement imprinted itself across every conscious mind aboard: they are under our shadow. You will leave. The vessel's systems restarted in perfect order, coordinates for immediate exit already programmed into navigation. No controls responded until the engines ignited on that precise course. As the vessel retreated past the edge of the system, the anomalies vanished from every scan, leaving only the void. All attempts to redetect them failed. Crew members found their personal devices blank of any record of what they had seen, save for a single symbol etched into each display, a circle enclosed within 12 smaller points. The commander understood the message without needing debate. The planet was not an unclaimed opportunity. It was the center of an enduring watch, guarded by relics from an era when humanity's reach had spanned the stars. Any who tested that watch would not be warned twice. The council listened in silence as the science vessel's account was delivered. There was no embellishment, no attempt to interpret beyond the facts. The recording of the implanted voice was played once, though it conveyed more through the weight of its presence than the literal meaning of the words. No one asked for it to be repeated. The reaction was immediate yet controlled. Strategic factions that had once argued for invasion now calculated the cost of defiance, and found it immeasurable. No weapon in their combined arsenals could guarantee survival against constructs capable of disabling ships without detectable effort. No fleet could withstand coordinated strikes from a network that had endured untouched for millennia. The realization shifted the discussion from conquest to avoidance. Some proposed formal recognition of Sol 3 as a sovereign system, not for diplomacy, but as a deterrent signal to prevent accidental trespass. Others suggested covert observation from extreme range to monitor any change in the planet's status. The most pragmatic voices urged complete disengagement, arguing that even the knowledge of such defenses could invite reckless actors to test them, and be erased without consequence. The phrase "under our shadow" became the defining marker in every classified file. It carried an implication beyond protection. It was a statement of ownership, a declaration that the planet was bound to guardians who answered to no authority in the galaxy. This was not a hidden alliance or secret treaty. It was an unbroken claim backed by power no one could challenge. In private exchanges between delegates, unease took on a sharper edge. If the humans of Earth were descended from a civilization capable of building such defenses, there was no assurance they would remain in their current state. The possibility of their reemergence as a star-faring power was no longer dismissed as fantasy. Patience might one day shift, and the galaxy would be confronted not by their guardians, but by humanity itself. The knowledge was locked under the highest security levels, distributed only to leadership circles. Officially, the mission was recorded as inconclusive, with recommendations against further investment in the region. Unofficially, warnings spread quietly through intelligence networks, ensuring that even smugglers and opportunists kept their distance. Rumors twisted the truth into half-believed myths. Some spoke of invisible fleets, others of planetary mines that consumed intruders. None matched the reality, but all served the same purpose: isolation. Far from the council chambers and secure archives, Earth continued without awareness of the decision made in distant space. Its people carried on their lives in cities and fields, their view of the night sky untouched by the knowledge of what moved beyond it. Satellites circled in predictable paths, telescopes searched for signals, and nothing betrayed the silent watch that had just reaffirmed its claim. In the construct's domain, no shift in posture occurred. Their orbits remained fixed, their power signatures subdued, their presence invisible to any who did not know exactly where to look. They did not seek recognition or thanks from those they shielded. Their purpose was absolute and unchanging, rooted in an order given so far in the past that the passage of time held no meaning. For the galaxy, Sol 3 became a point on star charts marked not with coordinates of opportunity, but with a quiet warning. It was a reminder that not all vulnerabilities are real, and that sometimes the absence of defense is not weakness but the confidence of something greater. No campaign plans were drawn against it again. The last note entered into the science vessel's hidden log summarized the conclusion in a single line. They do not survive because they are overlooked. They survive because nothing dares to touch them. The Council accepted this as final. Whatever lay at the heart of that blue sphere, it would remain untouched, not through fear alone, but through the recognition that some boundaries are not meant to be crossed.